Maryland. We found out, we ordered a bunch of records from her. We found out that she had a criminal background. We found out that she had lied to get into medical school. She had lied to get licensed in 3 states. She was lying, trying to get licensed in a 4th state. We notified all of those states. We sent the transcripts from her criminal background, and she was forced to surrender all of her licenses, except for in Utah where she lives. They're going to allow her to keep practicing medicine there for some reason. I don't know why. And it's really a dangerous situation. But she has promised that she's not going to do abortions anymore, but I don't believe her. Okay? So induction abortions are the ones that are done primarily here in at Southwestern Women's Options on the latest of late terms, because the later you get, like I said, the babies are harder to dismember, and so they've found that delivering the babies intact is really the way to go. It used to be called partial birth abortion because they never killed the baby ahead of time. They killed the baby as the baby was emerging from the birth canal. Well, when people found out about that, there was another public outcry against that, and there was actually a law passed. That law, to be honest with you, really has no teeth to it, but it did force abortionists to switch procedures. And so George Tiller modified the partial birth abortion procedure, and he calls it the mold technique because of the 4 medications that he used. And he trained Shelley Sella and Susan Robinson, who work here in Albuquerque now. He trained them to do this procedure, and this is the exact procedure that they use. And we know actually a lot about it. George Tiller would go on we have videos of George Tiller explaining the process to prospective customers, and we also have board transcripts of descriptions of this process. And also I attended the Kermit Gosnell trial, and at that time there was expert witnesses that were describing this process and the dangers of it, which was it was pretty interesting actually to sit through that. So we actually know a lot about this process. So he named it after the 3 drugs, misoprostol, which is Cytotec. It was originally a drug that was made to treat stomach ulcers, and the manufacturers have always warned that it's unsafe to use with pregnancy terminations, but it's used widespread. In fact, I'm not sure I know an abortionist that doesn't use misoprostol in abortion. So it's a uterine contracting drug. So is oxytocin. It's another uterine contraction. It's kind of like Pitocin. You hear women who go into the hospital and they have their labors induced. It's the same kind of drug like that. And then laminaria, which is, it's a stick that dilates inside the woman to help open the cervix so that they can get the instruments in. It can be, usually you find them made out of seaweed, but they have a synthetic kind now. And so laminaria, and then digoxin, of course, which is the drug that gives the baby a heart attack and brings about what they call fetal demise. There are admitted dangers to this process, and this is from a consent form for Southwestern Women's Options that Tara was able to get a hold of, and it says this is from their own document. So this is what they're telling the women if the women bother to read it, which most of them don't. It says there's no guarantee or assurances has been made to me as to the results that might be obtained. Now that's kind of an important thing because abortionists are not responsible for the results. Okay, you come in, you make the decision, you pay them the money, and whatever the consequences, that's on you. That's not on them. Okay, that's how they think about it. That's exactly George Tiller's operating philosophy. It's not my problem. You're the one that came to me. You're the one that wanted the abortion. I told you that there might be risks. You accepted it. Now it's on you. I'm not responsible. You are. And so whatever botched abortion, shoddy care they give women, they put it back on the women. It's your fault because you came here and you agreed to this procedure. And it's, in a way, I think, it's despicable. Let's just put it that way. The risk of terminating a pregnancy gradually increases throughout the course of pregnancy. These comparative risks become approximately equal at 16 to 18 weeks of pregnancy and increase so that pregnancy termination at 18 weeks and above involves a greater risk than carrying the pregnancy to term. So in spite of those greater risks than childbirth, they do these procedures in an outpatient clinic setting. Most of the time when the women go through the process, they're not supervised, and it's really a dangerous situation. So I'm just going to walk through each day really quickly here and give you kind of an idea of what the women go through every day. On day one, the women go into the clinic, they fill out an intake form, they go through whatever kind of counseling that they give them there. They are given an ultrasound. During the time of the ultrasound, they're given an injection into the womb through their abdomen. Sometimes it's done vaginally, we found out, but most of the time it's through the abdomen. They have to use ultrasound because they have to make sure it goes in the right place. If the digoxin only goes into the amniotic fluid and never goes into the baby, then there's a 70% failure rate. In other words, the baby will not die 70% of the time. The baby will still be alive. Now, if they do happen to get it into the baby's tissue, there's a 13% failure rate on the first try. So a lot of times what they'll do at Southwestern is they'll check them on the second day. If they still find a fetal heartbeat, they'll give them another injection. But babies have been known to be born alive. We know that for a fact because Cheryl Sullenger used to be in Wichita, and we know in Wichita that she had an incident there of a baby being born alive. One of the clinic workers came to our office, and she was a tortured girl. She had to bare her soul. She was trying to find peace in her life after having quit. She was really traumatized by what she saw at the clinic, and she was down to about 90 pounds. She had lost all this weight. She ground her teeth down to nothing. She had to have all this dental work done to build her teeth, get new teeth put in, and she had night tremors and nightmares, and she was a pretty big wreck. And so we know that what she was saying was true because of other things that she told us that we were able to verify. So we called the police because she had given us information about a murder, because when you kill a baby after it's been born alive, there's only one word for that, and that's murder, okay? And that's what Kermit Gosnell went to jail for. That's what his accomplices all went to jail for, was killing babies born alive. You cannot do that in America, at least right now. You go to jail for that. It's called murder. So we reported it to the police. The police went down there. The baby's body had been incinerated. All the evidence had been destroyed. And so they were never able to bring charges. And that was the police officer that was handling that was pretty distressed by that. But he had a full-size incinerator in his abortion clinic. He used to burn the babies' bodies. And so it wasn't like Gosnell, when they raided his place, they found all the bodies. And they were able to examine them, have a medical examiner inspect them, and they were able to verify that, in fact, he was killing live babies. But for George Tiller, he was able to hide all that. So anyway, then after they do the injection, they do the laminaria to start the dilation process. They give her Cytotec to help ripen her cervix so that her cervix will open up faster, and they send her back to the hotel. Okay, on day 2, they bring her back, they check for fetal heart tones, they re-administer the digoxin if necessary, they remove and reinsert more laminaria, they give her more Cytotec. This time they give it to her orally because they want her contractions to start. But the problem with Cytotec is that it is unpredictable. It can cause very violent contractions. It can cause unpredictable contractions. It's not safe to be used. And we have testimony in transcripts from medical boards, and even in the Gosnell trial, there was testimony from an expert witness from one of the local hospitals that said there's no way you would ever put a woman into labor, induce labor, and send her away. Once you induce labor, you have to monitor her. And they do not do that here. They don't do it anywhere, except for possibly if an abortion is done in a hospital. But if the abortion is done in these outpatient surgical centers, like here in Albuquerque, like Leroy Carhart, like Warren Hearn up in Colorado, and Martin Haskell out in Ohio, they all give the women these uterine-inducing drugs and send them to back to the hotel where they are not monitored. On day 3 or 4, they're brought back in to the clinic. The baby is delivered. This is showing an actual delivery of the baby. This is actually a partial birth abortion diagram, but it applies to this. The baby's neck is inserted with scissors. The contents are suctioned. The skull collapses. You can see this little baby here. This little baby, the parents gave us these pictures. It was from George Tiller's. This baby was aborted exactly the same way as they abort babies here in Albuquerque. You can see the wound on the neck. And you can see kind of here, the skull is collapsed. This part of the skull is kind of bent over this part of the skull. So the skull is being decompressed. And they actually had a memorial service for the babies. That's something they do here too if people want it. You know, they can kill their baby and then memorialize their baby, I guess. It's kind of a sick thing for me, but it's something that George Tiller started. He had a chaplain on staff in his abortion clinic that would tell women, it's okay, honey, God understands, this is okay, you're gonna be okay. God forgives, God understands what you're going through, God didn't want this baby to suffer, you did the right thing. And I think that's like, we called him a priest of Baal, honestly, because he was just as much of a false prophet, a false religious leader that was just telling these women a lie, you know, and only later when they find out it really wasn't okay, those women were not in a good place, you know, they needed a lot of care and they needed a lot of attention. So anyway, that's what they do. And then the babies are disposed of in whatever way. And I wanted to play this for you. I think I have enough time to play it. This is a first-hand account from a woman named Kelly. I don't know if any of you saw this. This was on several years ago. You know, Bill O'Reilly, he used to just be on a tear about George Tiller. He really did not like him, called him Tiller the baby killer on national television, and just gave him a lot of coverage. And Bill found this young lady, her name is Kelly. She had had an abortion at 14, and she tells her story. And the procedure has been slightly modified because Kelly now is about 30 years old. She's not 14. And the procedure has been modified. But this gives you an idea of what happens. Not all the babies are birthed like what you would expect in a delivery room. Sometimes something else happens, and she's going to tell you. And I'm going to let her say it in her own words. If we can get this to work here.
Fact segment authorities in Kansas still investigating the late-term abortionist Dr. George Tiller to see if he has violated state law by reporting the rapes of underage girls. Tiller will abort babies at any time up until there is some kind of citing into the spectrum. As a medical reason, Washington is Tiller. Got pregnant at age 13 in Maryland and had her fetus aborted by Tiller. Okay, so you were 20 weeks pregnant when you brought the situation to your parents' attention, I understand. State of Maryland, you could not have an abortion that late, but your father and mother, I guess, decided to take you to Kansas, where Tiller advertises on the net. Everybody knows who he is. He'll abort babies at any time. So your parents take you there, you go into the clinic, pick it up from there.
Well, it was a 5-day process, and when I first went in, they have counseling that they offer. It's a group counseling with other women that are going through the same thing, and during the 5 days, they insert expandable whatever into the cervix to slowly dilate you through the 5-day process.
That's the lemon area.
And about the 3rd or 4th day, the Dr. Tiller came in and injected into the amniotic sac saline solution, which suffocated and burned my baby to death. And on the last day, they put you in a room with other women. There's like maybe 6 to 10 beds in a big room, and push my baby into a toilet. And after that, they moved me to another room to remove all the, after birth. And really the only 2 times I ever saw the doctor was when he injected the saline solution and when he finished the process by removing me after birth. And this is all very graphic, and I think that that's very important that people know that that's going on in our country.
Absolutely, I applaud your courage. Now, did the doctor say anything to you?
I mean, it's, what I remember today is that no one ever said anything to me about what was going to happen during that 5-day process, or what was going to happen when I left that clinic, or 10 years down the road what was going to happen.
But Tiller himself, when he injected with the killing agent, and then when he took the afterbirth, he never said anything to you at all.
This will all be understood.
This will all be understood. What happened to the body?
I have no idea. I left my baby dead in a toilet.
All right, then when you got out from there, after the process was over, you went where?
After he had finished the process that day,
Right.
To a hotel room and then back home.
So you just left the clinic right after you discharged the baby, the dead baby, and then they put your coat on and went out to a hotel.
Yes.
How do you feel about that, the whole thing?
I'm disgusted. I'm disgusted that women are told that they have a choice, yet no one tells us what that choice is or what that choice is going to do to us or to the baby for that matter. I mean, very few people I think know that this is what happens. It's not just an easy solution. It's not an answer to any problem. It just creates other problems.
What happened to you after the abortion?
Many things. I mean, I was traumatized, so I had lots of symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder. I had very low self-esteem. I was promiscuous. I used drugs. I had eating disorders. Lots of horrible things. And when I think that, what would the worst case scenario be that I have my child, that would have been better than having gone through all of the effects of the depression, suicidal thoughts, all of that happened afterwards.
Now, Kelly, don't beat yourself up. You were 13 years old, 14 when the abortion happened. You know better now. You're courageous. You came on. You told the nation what's happening in Kansas. Very few people will do that. And, we really appreciate your courage very much. Thank you.
So you can see that, when they say abortion is they're helping women and saving women's lives, well, it didn't help Kelly. It didn't help her at all. And she wishes now, of course, she had had her baby. She's actually a Christian now. She is very pro-life. She's active. She actually goes out and stands in front of Leroy Carhart's abortion clinic in Maryland, where she lives, and she's very active there, participated in a lot of pro-life press conferences since then, and she's a real good girl. And we're glad that she did have the courage to go on national TV. That was hard, so that was a good thing.